Please be aware, in this podcast series we talk about all areas of safeguarding, which some people may find upsetting. So please make sure you're okay listening to today's topic. Be mindful of those around you, such as children, that you might not want to listen in. Hi, I'm SSS Safeguarding Director Sam Preston.
And I'm former head teacher and content author Sara Spinks.
Today we're discussing a really concerning trend that first made headlines last year. We're talking about the dangerous craze of patterning. That's where children they plan and film violent attacks on other children and share videos of the violent attacks on social media platforms. So, Sara, to start off, could you perhaps explain to our audience listening today why it's become such a troubling trend?
Yes, certainly. It's a sickening trend that's driven by a desire for power and attention. It's often led by gangs and school bullies who see it as a form of amusement. And the aim is to humiliate and embarrass the victims further by spreading the footage online. It's essentially classic bullying taken to a whole new digital level, and it's of extreme violent level. The most sickening elements is the complicity, of those witnessing these violent acts as well.
Yeah, it's truly alarming to see how this behaviour has evolved, actually, and the level of violence. But you're right, the passive complicity of those watching, filming it, doing nothing to help. So I know, Sara, that when we spoke earlier, you mentioned that the National Bullying Helpline has seen a real increase in calls relating to related to patterning. So can you maybe elaborate on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The helpline has noticed a significant rise in calls reporting incidents of patterning. Parents are reaching out to them because they're struggling to get schools to take these incidents seriously or to investigate them and maybe even sometimes address the perpetrators. And it's heartbreaking to see how this trend is affecting families and communities across the country.
Well, it's clear that, urgent actions needed to address this issue. But I suppose, first of all, we need to kind of look at the background.
Yeah. Well, in recent cases, children as young as 11 have been subjected to brutal attacks by teenagers, with the assaults filmed and shared on social media. Now, there's one instance in Lancashire. Victims' mothers felt that the police weren't taking their complaints seriously, leading them to protest outside the police station. These attacks not only cause physical harm, but also leave really long-lasting mental scars on the victims that often result in PTSD and profound feelings of fear and isolation.
Yeah, it's deeply concerning to hear, about the impact these attacks are having on the community, but particularly on the young people. I mean, we're really talking about another example of, adverse childhood experience, aren't we? That could result in trauma. So with that in mind, it's really another example of why developing trauma-informed practice is so important.
Absolutely. Schools have a crucial role to play in preventing and addressing patterning and other forms of violence amongst, students. They need to work closely with the police and other relevant agencies, to understand the root causes of these behaviours and implement targeted interventions to address them. This includes teaching conflict resolution skills, implementing anti-bullying programmes, and providing support for both victims and perpetrators. It's essential that schools create a safe and supportive environment where all students feel valued and protected.
Yeah, I agree with that, Sara, but I'd also add that this applies outside the school setting. Lots of the reported incidents don't happen on the school grounds. They happen on the way to and from school. But, even so, schools still do have a role to play.
Oh, you're right, Sam. From that perspective, it's just the same as any other form of bullying, which staff become aware of. If you stop and think about it, bullying on a school bus, for example, the schools should and do have that ownership. So it's exactly the same way. They have that responsibility to make sure that children are safe, whether that's happened on the school grounds or to and from the school.
Yeah, thinking about it, it's like contextual safeguarding, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
It's not just looking at what's happening in the setting. It's about all the things on the, the periphery, the contextual things that add into that picture of safeguarding a child.
It's an classic contextual safeguarding episode, this, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope our short podcast today has shed some light on this awful craze. And as practitioners, we do have to be aware of new and emerging trends in order to ensure that we have our policies and protocols in place and training to guide best practice. It's clear, we really need to work together to ensure the safety and well-being of young people, which includes, as we've said, contextual safeguarding.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's crucial that we all come together to address this growing problem and protect our children from harm, and that we think about prevention and are really clear about how we manage incidents should they occur.